Hi, my name is Dr. Penny Thompson Kruse, and I'm Professor of Violin at Bowling Green State University College of Musical Arts in Bowling Green, Ohio. I invite you to contact me via email, phone, friend me on Facebook, like the BGSU Violin Studio Facebook page, and follow me on Twitter at BGSU Violin. We have many exciting events scheduled at BGSU this year that I hope you can attend. I also would be happy to give you a lesson if you come to campus. I have prepared this video to help violinists prepare for the upcoming auditions for the Northeast Ohio Regional Orchestra. For general information about playing auditions, watch my video tutorials from the 2013 Northeast Ohio Regional Orchestra and the 2013 Northwest Ohio Regional Orchestra. Information about the auditions can be found at the following website. The auditions will be held September 27th on the campus of Cleveland State University. For more information, please contact Scott Asti. Letter L is famous as being the most difficult and exposed passage in the first violin part of William Tell. It falls right after a page turn. So the page should be turned early or a Xerox copy is used so that the inside player of each hand doesn't sit out and the outside players see the passage in time. The tempo marking is allegro vivace and should be played at about quarter note equals 144 to 152. The pickup to letter L is a quarter note C sharp marked with an accent and a sforzando, and then a subito pianissimo at letter L. The general rule in an audition is not to play anything that is not specified. In this particular case, you may wonder if you should start on the second 16th since the downbeat is tied, or articulate the tied downbeat C sharp, or play the quarter note C sharp pickup, which is not included in your music. Knowing the context of the piece, I would probably choose to play the pickup. However, I do not believe you will be penalized with your choice as long as you play the passage well. It is fast, exposed, spiccato, pianissimo until the measure before letter M, highly chromatic, starts in C sharp minor and moves to E major, involves many string crossing, and doesn't lie well in any position. My fingerings do not involve large stretches. If you have large hands and long fingers, you may design something that works better for you. Another reason this passage is difficult is that professional orchestras often program it on pops or children's concerts with only one rehearsal, sometimes the day of the concert. In an orchestra, you will play softer. In an audition, do not play so soft that every note cannot be heard cleanly. Consider the space where you are playing. Are you playing behind a screen that will swallow your sound? Are you standing fairly close to the adjudicator? Watch your contact point. Make sure you have had your bow rehaired fairly recently. You should be around the balance point of your bow. Do not try to make the bow bounce. The tempo is so fast that you will hardly see the bow leave the string. Right from the start, we have an awkward hand frame. B sharp, C sharp, D sharp. So we're not exactly in first position because we have a high first finger, then we have a half step to second finger and a whole step to third finger. Then we come down and move the first finger back to B natural. Then I would play an open A at the end of that first measure. On the downbeat of the next measure, I would use a fourth finger. This will help the string crossing because it will fall on a downbeat on a down bow. In the third measure, slide your first finger back half step from E to D sharp, which puts you in half position for B sharp and G sharp, 3 and 1. The next measure after the downbeat, stretch or shift up to the third finger C sharp. So the perfect interval of G sharp to C sharp is going to be played 1 to 3. And then you're back in first position. Note in the fifth measure that the notes are different from the second measure. Here's the second measure. And here's the fifth measure. So it does not repeat the A on the downbeat like the first time. On the second line, you'll do the same half step shift back from E to D sharp, first finger. And in the eighth measure, you're going to do that high third finger. In the ninth measure, you can either shift to third position on the downbeat or on the second beat. If you are wondering why I'm not telling you to stay in first position, there are 3 reasons. In first position, you'll be playing that passage across 3 strings, D, A, and E. And you'll have to skip a string between the 2 G sharps. Finally, the third reason is that the high G sharp is the only note on the E string and it just might be too loud. In the next to last measure of the second line, note the B is now natural, where we played twice we had B sharp and now we have B natural. On the second beat of that measure, I suggest the following fingering. Second finger on the A sharp, then I would shift down to 3 on the F double sharp, but think inharmonically G natural, and think inharmonically D sharp being an E flat. The downbeat of the next measure is a G sharp, and I would play with your third finger. Keep in mind that you're doing extension because a perfect fourth D sharp to G sharp feels comfortable between 1 and 4, but we're going to do 1 to 3, followed by that half step. At the end of the second line, on the last measure, note the intervals, half steps, and then a whole step back to the F sharp. On the third line, first measure, stay in first position. So you have a half step between your first and second fingers on the G string, and then your second finger has to cover 2 strings, the D and the G, for the B and the F sharp. This string crossing motion can be done mainly with your wrist and fingers. In the second measure of the third line, I suggest the following fingering. We're on a third finger for the G sharp. I'm going to shift back to half position, 2, 1, 1, back up to first position, 3, 1, 4, 2. In the third measure of the third line, I have 3 fingering options. You could shift into third position on the downbeat, or you could shift into fourth position, and then back a half step to the D sharp. Or you could stay in first position for the first beat and shift into third position on the second beat. This fingering has an open E, and some orchestras might object to that, so that I am giving you all these options. You'll do the exact fingering that you choose when this pattern repeats. You'll stay in third position until that C sharp, where you're going to shift down to second position with your first finger, shift back to first position, and then I would shift up to first finger on the B sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4, then back down, 2, 1, 2, and then you have a exact repetition. The pattern changes 2 measures before M. And I'd play an open A there. The fortissimo begins on the second 16th before M. I would shift into third position, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Retake down bow and replace your third finger with your second. Shift back a half step, 2, back to 2 again, second finger, which is fourth position, shift down to third position, first finger, second position, first finger, first position, then I would do 4, 2, this is fourth position on the E string, 2, 3, 4, and then exact repetition, repeat down bow, retake, down bow, second finger on the E string. So I mentioned that the fortissimo starts in the measure before M on the second 16th. One of the problems is everybody wants to play louder earlier, especially when the line rises or in the sequences. Resist that temptation to get louder. I want to talk about the finger patterns when we're doing the sequences. So I start in third position here. So I have a half step, and then 2 and 3 are directly across. When I shift down, the half step is now between my second and third fingers. When I go to first position, the half step is between my third and fourth fingers. And then extended fourth finger. Letter M is really the easy part of the excerpt. Remember to take the double down bows whenever you have an 8th note followed by 2/16. Let's look at the hand frame for the sequences at letter M. Third position, fifth position, replace the second finger, 2 whole step, shift down a half step, now down to fourth position. The half step is between 3 and 4. I shift down to third position, all whole steps, second position, half step between 1 and 2, first position, and then you repeat the same pattern. New material appears in the 8th line, and I would use fourth fingers. Then I'm going to shift into second position. We have a reminder fortissimo, and it'll be down bow. The 16ths are basically on the string and the 8ths are off, and I would vibrate them. You are going to stay in second position all the way to letter N, the end of your required passage. drones. In the William Tell Overture excerpt, I set my sound-producing tuner on a G sharp at the beginning of letter L, and on the third line I switch it to a B. In the Smetana, I set my tuner on a B and then move it to E at letter L. Practicing with a drone helps me check my intonation in shifts, positions, or hand frames that I find more challenging. I practice extremely slowly and softly when playing with a drone. The Moldau, or Vltava, is a tone poem about a river by the Czech composer Smetana. The piece depicts the flow of the river from its beginnings to its fullest area. A flowing tempo is an important element of this piece. It is one movement of a larger work by Smetana called Má vlas, meaning my country or my homeland. The excerpt begins with a descending passage marked with 3 Fs. The tempo is allegro non agitato, not agitated, at approximately 96 to 100 for the dotted quarter note. Be sure and vibrate the accented first note and crescendo down the scale until the shocking subito pianissimo in the 5th measure. For the first note accent, pull more bow from the forearm. I suggest the following fingering for the descended repeated 16th note scale. 4, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, third position 3, then I go to half position, third finger on the D string. That's all done while you crescendo. There is no break between the second and third lines at the key change. The run goes right into the più moto. Be sure and keep the 16th notes measured in separate bows and in slurs. The pattern changes on the second line, second measure. The first half of the measure is the same, B and C. Then you continue to play B and C. Then we're going to do B to A sharp with our second finger, sliding backwards. And then we have a half step to 3, whole step. We go to the D string, and we're in half position, and it's half step, whole step, whole step. On the A string, from half position, we're going to first position, all whole steps. Open E, and the E string, half step between 2 and 3. And then shift into fourth position with a half step into the downbeat, 3 to 4. Note in the run, one measure before the più moto, there's 2 16ths followed by triplet 16th groups. All of that is crescendoing to the fortissimo on the third line. You have 2 measures to go from pianissimo to fortissimo. The German at the più moto translates into the Moldau at its widest point. Note the overall dynamic of fortissimo. Note the hairpins, which is crescendos and diminuendos, the accents, and the sforzandos. There is also a crescendo 4 measures before letter L. Anytime there is a slur marked over 2 repeated notes, these are played as a hooked bowing. Otherwise, they would sound like a tie. An example of this is in the 4th and 6th measures of the più moto. So there we have a tie. Slur, the bowing in the next to last measure of the third line. I would start at the sforzano on a down bow, up bow, then I would do down for 1/4 note, up for 3 notes, down bow for 1 note, up, down, and then 2 ups. This way your sforzano will come on a down bow, going on, up bow, down, separate, up. The piumoto starts in 4th position. At this next pickup, I would shift to 2nd finger back to 3rd position. Then I would go to 1st position right here. I would go to 2nd position with my 3rd finger in order to have a healthy vibrato on the sforzano. Here's where I change the bowing. Then I'm going to go to 2nd finger, 1st position. We'll shift into 3rd position for the sforzano and stay there. 4th, 3, 3. 1. Shift on the pickup to 4th finger on the A string. Shift. The reason is there are conductors, orchestral musicians that would object to the open E string. So by putting it in 4th position, I avoid that. And I just cross strings for the accent. Then I would shift to 3rd position, 2nd finger. And there's a crescendo in the bar before letter L. This section is named after a castle in Prague. And the pitches B, E, D sharp, B create a motive that represents that castle in symphonic literature. You can hear this theme sustained in the orchestra over the arpeggios in the 1st violin part. But in the arpeggios, you can find those notes on the 2nd beat. The arpeggios at letter L cover 3 strings, and shifts occur on the 2nd, 4th, and 5th downbeats. Check the pitches in the 3rd and 6th measures carefully. The ascent is different from the descent. So the first measure, 1, 2, 2, up and down the same. Shift into 5th position. And now I'm going to cover a 5th with my 2nd finger, 2, 2, 3. I come down and I go back up that. Then I suggest going a half step down with your 3rd finger, 3, 2, 2. And then the next measure, 1, 2, 2, like the beginning. Back to 5th position, 2, 2, 3. And then down the half step, 3, 2, 2. The reason why I shift down in those half measures instead of staying in the position is the perfect 5th is more difficult with the 1st finger. It's more likely to fall through because it doesn't have as big a pad or the same angle as the 2nd finger. So you must cover 2 strings with 1 finger whenever you have a perfect 5th. I would practice each arpeggio several times. Then shift and do the next one. Shift for the descending part. then you know the spacings. In order to cover 2 strings on a perfect fifth, try adjusting your elbow and your hand so that your arm is exactly below the 2 strings. Your right arm will be following the contour of the bridge. Be sure to use enough bow and vibrate. In closing, remember to always listen to any piece you play at an audition. Your part is just one of the total. Professional orchestral musicians say that the person who wins the job is the one who plays their part as if they hear the rest of the orchestra playing around them. Good luck with your audition. I hope you have found my suggestions helpful. Contact me at any time. Look for my video tutorial on preparing the Ohio All-State Orchestra violin excerpts in the near future.